So hello and welcome back, and this is part 2 of Self-Talk Sense Solutions series I've been making about how to change your self-talk, and it's all connected with your self-worth, which is something that takes a complete hammering when you've been with a narcissist. Okay, so following on from yesterday, if you struggle to come up with some better alternatives for your negative self-talk, I want to go into that a little bit more today and just give you some examples of how you can literally change your self-talk around. And I have explained it a little bit, but I just kind of want to go into it a little bit more in more detail for you today, okay? So if, for example, your negative self-talk is, I'm to blame for this, it's all my fault, you switch that around by saying, actually, no, I'm not to blame for any of this. It's not my fault. Maybe you'll say, I should have made more effort, or I could have made more effort, or I could have done it differently or better. You change that out, and if it's appropriate, obviously, you say, I will do better next time, or I will think it through more clearly next time, or I will put more energy into it next time. So you're not aiming for perfection, you're just giving yourself an opportunity to look at things differently and look at how you might handle it better in future. Maybe you are always telling yourself that you're hopeless at, XYZ. You switch that around by saying, well, I'm going to improve X, Y, or Z, or I could improve that. I could learn, I could take a class, I could succeed. You just change it out all the time. Maybe you say, I always fail, I can't do that, I'll fail. Well, maybe you change that out and say, well, maybe I'll succeed next time. I let myself or I let others down. That I hear a lot. You change that and say, well, hang on, no, actually, I did the best that I could, or I do the best I can for myself and others. So it doesn't matter if it isn't strictly true. What you want to do is start shifting your rigid beliefs around it, that actually it could be different. It doesn't have to be cast in stone, set in stone, that it's this way. So you start giving yourself a little bit of maneuvering room, so you can start moving out of the negative zone and into a more positive one. You might be brutal to yourself and say things like, I'm so stupid. And believe me, I've heard this, especially in relation to narcissists and to attracting narcissists. I've heard tons of men in my group, men from my group, women from my group saying, how could I have been so stupid? I fell for it. This is very, very common. And it's one of the things that you need to stop saying to yourself if you are saying that. Because what you have to understand is that narcissists are supremely manipulative. And they are very, very good at convincing people that they are genuine and that you're the best thing that's ever happened to them. And by the time you realize it's all a massive, big, horrible, ugly lie, it's too late, because you didn't know. You couldn't possibly even have known that people like this exist. So you get sucked into the trap, you get love bombed. There's nothing stupid about that. So you want to start saying to yourself, I'm not stupid, I'm smart, I'm clever, I learn easily, but I was manipulated. Hey, it is what it is. That's what you need to start saying to yourself, not beating yourself up. Guilt, we talked a bit about guilt and blame, and regret and shame and all those sort of feelings. You might think, I feel so guilty about that, I feel so much shame about that. Just decide, well, actually, it's part of my experience, and I'm ready to let go of that. Things like, I'm incompetent. Well, say to yourself, well, no, I'm not. I'm very capable and competent. And look for the things that prove to you how capable and competent you are. And most people, when I've run through an exercise like this with them, they can come out with a long list of things. They've got education, they've held down good jobs, you know, they've learned to drive, they've been great parents, they've done lots and lots of things that show without a shadow of a doubt that they are capable and competent. But you just get into this loop, as I've said, about being, you know, always negative, always down on yourself. Well, throw that out the window and start looking for the good parts of yourself. You're always saying things, you know, I should be this, I ought to be this. You just change that out and just say, you know, I'm choosing to feel better, I'm choosing to get better, you know. So you just always find a much more positive way of saying more positive things about yourself. And the very simple rule of thumb is, if you can't think on the spot, in the moment, when you think, you know, I'm such a loser, for example, bounce it across to what is the polar opposite of that. Well, I'm such a loser. Wow, I'm such a winner. And you are a winner at life, no matter what's going on. You know, you're here, you're in the race. So you are a winner, regardless of what's happening. When you look at what you don't want in your life, another tip I always share with people that I'm working with is bounce it over to, what do you want in your life? What's the most amazing thing that you could have in your life? Well, decide that you can have that you deserve it, you know. So you take all of these negative things and you always bounce it across to, what's the opposite? What's the ideal? What do you really want for yourself in life? Even when you think things like, well, I've suffered my whole life with narcissistic abuse, I had narcissistic parents, even that can be changed, because you're not your past, you're not your future. What you are and who you are is the person you are here in the now, in this moment. And you can change how you feel about your past, and you can change how you feel about your future, you see? And it all starts with doing these little things, changing your negative statements, turning them into positive ones, questioning your own beliefs. You know, it's all connected. It's all about putting you into a much more positive frame of mind, whilst acknowledging that, hey, I'm not perfect. Hey, everything isn't perfect. Hey, you know, I did make mistakes. You know, who doesn't? Let's face it. We all make mistakes. We come here to this earth to learn and to make mistakes. And some of us make massive ones. Some of us get roped in horribly into these narcissistic relationships. But it doesn't mean that things can't change and that you can't heal, because you can. People heal all the time from narcissistic abuse and from other forms of abuse. You know, I see it in my group. I work with people all the time. So allow yourself to believe that, because believing that you can change and heal is one of the most important things that you can do. Now, another little tip I learned from another psychologist, this is Dr. Ethan Kross. He's at the University, or was the University of Michigan, and he, excuse me, he led a study about how the pronouns people use when they talk to themselves in their mind. And he validated this technique. He said that shifting from I to your own name can have these really powerful self-regulatory effects. So what that means for you is that by using your name, it changes the way you feel and behave. So when people change the inner dialogue from, you know, for example, oh my Lord, or oh, how am I going to do that, to shifting that to saying, and I'll use my own name in this example, Maria, you can do that. It creates this mental distance that Ethan Kross points out. It's almost like you're duping yourself into thinking about you as though you were another person. And I've tried it myself, and it really does have that effect. Now, gaining psychological distance in this way enables self-control. It allows us to think more clearly and perform more competently. And this is really important if you're dealing with a narcissist, because it's a simple but profound technique that allows us to be released from negative thoughts. And then we can gain kind of a new perspective. We can focus more deeply and, move on, plan for the future, whatever. So whenever you talk to yourself, I want you to try this out and let me know how it goes for you. So you just change the I to you. So you can say, instead of I can do this, you can say, you can do this. And you can use your own name. So I could say, Maria, you can do this, and it does work. Now, there's a lot of studies as well that support the serious implications of positive self-talk and affirmations on our psyche. And I think that's pretty good news. So these little tips actually do work. Obviously, that technique will work depending on the statement, but you can use your common sense around that. So just give it a try and see how it feels to you. Now, the next thing I want you to think about when it comes to changing your view of the world and how and why you feel the way you do and how you can change, because all these videos, let's face it, are about helping you to change. So another way to challenge yourself is to ask, I call it the give up or gain question. So when you want to do something, because you're afraid of what the outcome might be, you're actually doing two things. And one is that you're gaining something by not doing whatever it is you're avoiding. So for example, if you're uncomfortable in social situations, you might refuse an invite to a party, or maybe you turn down a date, or you avoid meetings at work because you're afraid that you'll be called on to answer a question. Now, granted, if a narcissist is involved in any of these scenarios, of course, you don't want to put yourself back in the lion's den. That's understandable, but I'm talking about more in general. Do you tend to avoid things because they're not going to be comfortable for you? So what happens if you do that is that what you're gaining in the give up or gain, you're gaining the security of staying inside your comfort zone. And again, I reiterate, I don't mean go to a party if you know your ex is going to be there, your next is going to be there. Don't do that. We advise keeping away from a narcissist and getting a complete new zone where they don't exist. So I'm talking about more generally, it's more about understanding how you deal with situations, okay? What actually happens very often when you stay with a narcissist is that it actually does become your comfort zone. Now, if you're still in that situation and this is you really want to think about this. Now, I've often talked about the fear that keeps you in a relationship, but this comes into play that sometimes people feel it's better the devil you know. It's that kind of scenario. And sometimes, and I know a lot of people in this situation, it's just easier to stay stuck. But why is that? Why do we put up with awful abuse for years and years and years? And one of the key reasons is that you're protecting yourself from the feelings of discomfort or unease that you'll feel if you go out into the world, into new situations. Common things I hear: how do I know who I can trust? Can I ever trust anyone again? Will I meet another narcissist? How do I navigate life? I've been with this person so long. How do I manage life on my own? So there's a lot of fears, and there's a lot more if it comes to leaving a narcissist. There can be children involved, there could be businesses involved, there could be property, finance, all of these things, which makes it a very tangled web, and it can be very difficult to leave. So you have to think through all of those things, but it often comes into this feeling of leaving your comfort zone. Okay, so I totally understand. What happens when you don't want to expose yourself to any of these new situations is you have the comfort of just basically not having to face up to your own fears. And this is often referred to as secondary gains. So you've gained the safety of not feeling uncomfortable and unsafe out there in a new way, albeit safe in a very, very unpleasant way, in the case that you are still with the narc, and also known as the devil you know. So you kind of go for better the devil you know. The next reason is the giving up part. So what it means if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone and go and grab the new life is that you're giving up the opportunity to expand your horizons. So you're losing out on the chance of enjoying a life of freedom. And what you're losing out on, could turn out to be a fantastic date, a fantastic new romance with someone who's real and genuine. And you're giving up the chance, to go out to parties, to get back and be social, to be seen and heard at work. Now, you do gain the comfort of staying in your comfort zone, but you give up these chances, multiple chances to grow and develop and have new encounters. This is particularly important when it comes to healing. So many people I know are stuck in the relationship because they don't know where to start and how to break out. They don't know how they're going to cope with life beyond this relationship. But it's really important that you ask yourself the questions. So how do you overcome these limitations? Ask yourself the questions. And again, pen and paper out, write down, what am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of here? Get it down on paper. And then you're going to troubleshoot the whole thing. Ask yourself, what could go well? What am I gaining? And do the pros and cons. I'm always telling people to do pros and cons lists because they really help you gain clarity around fears, around risks, around issues of security and safety and what have you. So get into doing these pros and cons. Look at what am I keeping in my comfort zone? And that will help you to understand what you're afraid of. What are you giving up? So by not getting out of a narcissistic relationship, and throw the net wide on this, you're giving up your personal happiness, you're giving up your personal freedom. You are in a lot of cases giving up your health, because prolonged narcissistic abuse, we know, is the result of, or the cause of, a ton of different illnesses, psychological, like depression and grief, anxiety, PTSD, but also a lot of physical illnesses and autoimmune diseases. So, you're risking your health. So these are the things you have to look at. Ask yourself, really, let's be honest, let's do a personal inventory. What am I giving up? What's it costing me to stay in this relationship? And get down everything you can think on paper, because there you'll have it in black and white. And you also face it that way. It forces you to have the courage to face your own inner demons, if you will. And then you can make a commitment. You can say, okay, what am I going to do about this? What can I do? Where can I make concessions? Where can I pull out of this relationship? How would I do that? What would it look like? And that whole exit strategy is a subject of a video entirely of its own, but these are the types of things you would be doing prior to making that decision. So I'm not going to go into the exit strategy on this particular video. Excuse me, I will very possibly cover it on a future one for you. So it's all about questions, and it's all about looking at your deep inner needs and wants and what you're putting up with, what you're compromising on. And that'll be a lot, but get it down on paper, get it written down, because there you're going to be able to see it. It's out in front of you, and it's not the big scary monster hiding under the bed anymore. It's out. You can see it in plain sight, and then you can do something about it. When I do know that when it comes to putting yourself out there after a narcissistic relationship, that can be terrifying. But you can protect yourself. You just have to know the red flags. And I've written a book about it. I've written the top 50 red flags of romantic predators. If you know those flags and you trust your gut which is actually red flag number one. And that's because so many people have said to me, I know I should have listened to my gut and I didn't. So always listen to your gut. So if you know the red flags, you trust your gut. If you know your personal boundaries and your own self-worth and what are your core values, that's all you need. Have all of that organized. You won't fall for a narcissist again. And then you free yourself up to go out and meet someone who is a loving, kind, generous, genuine person. I know lots of people in both my groups who have found their way into loving, happy relationships. But if you let the fear haunt you and cripple you and stop you going out there, then the narcissist wins and wins and wins, because not only did they take what they took from you during the time they were with you, and if you're still with them, they're still taking that. But even if you've left them, but the fear of putting yourself out there paralyzes you, that means they are still controlling you. They're still controlling your life, and they're blocking your future happiness. So again, you want to step back and think about that. Do you want them to have that power? Do you want them to ruin the rest of your life and the potential great relationship you could find? And I'm betting the answer is no. But you really have to do this work on yourself, this healing work, and build your self-worth up to a place where no one is ever going to be able to tear it down again. And that's what happens, okay? So I hope you found these videos helpful. I would advise you to go back over these 5 self-worth videos, because it's a lot to take in. And if you've watched any of them and you didn't have a pen and paper and you didn't take notes, go back over them and really think about what I said and how it applies to you in your life. And by all means, comment below the videos and let me have some feedback. And if you have any other areas where you feel you'd love to hear me talk about, then let me know. Just post a comment, because I have so much I can talk about and write about. The next part of the series I'm going to talk about, I'm actually going to talk about self-care. And I'm not really talking about mani-pedis, facials, and I'm talking about more deep fundamental self-care than that. So really, really vital elements of healing from narcissistic abuse are all the things I'm covering in these videos. So we've just done self-worth, self-talk. I'm going to be talking about self-care next week. So come back and join me and check them out. And I hope you find them helpful. So please leave a comment and subscribe and notifications and all of that. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your time. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit like, and of course your comments are always welcome. I'm Maria Rahman, and if you'd like to know more about how I can help you to heal from narcissistic abuse, check out the links below where you will be able to connect with me. And of course, please share this video with anyone that you think it will help. Thank you very much again for watching.